Hello, second grade Cougars. It is Mrs. Bellatash, and I'm here with lesson number 2, all about matter. Matter matters. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I want to tell you what we need for today's lesson and how we're going to get started. So you need your science notebook, you need a glue stick, you need a pencil, and you need this packet of materials that your teacher gave to you. These are your science notebook masters, and we're going to use the very first one that says object materials. So I'm going to take it, and it's a little big for our notebook, just a tiny bit bigger. So I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to trim off the bottom. So it's like this. And if you want, you can trim off the top a little bit, but leave the title on there, okay? So I just trimmed it a little bit so it will fit into the science notebook. Alrighty? Now I'm going to get my science notebook, and remember our first page was about how do we learn. I'm going to turn to the second page, and I'm going to glue this on the back of the front page, okay? So I'm going to get my glue stick, and I'm going to glue it right in my notebook, and I'm going to, again, I'm putting it on the back of the first page. And this is what mine looks like, boys and girls, okay? Like that. Now I'm going to put the page number. So this is the second page. I'm going to put a page number at the bottom, and I'm going to put the date. Now I'm doing mine on Friday, August 28th. You are going to be doing yours on a different day, but because this is the day I'm doing my lesson, I'm going to put 8/28/2020. So my notebook master, my notebook page has the date at the top, it has the page glued in, and it has the page number. All right, now let's get started on our actual lesson. Okay, so boys and girls, one of the things I want to make sure you don't lose these papers. These are our science notebook masters. So I'm going to put my paper clip back on it, and I'm going to set it aside. Maybe you need to put it back with your notebook or your papers. I don't want you to lose those sheets of paper, okay? All right. Now, we're going to start talking about our science unit, and it is going to be all about matter. Matter. Hey, what's the matter? Well, almost everything is matter. Matter is anything that takes up space. I take up space. I'm made out of matter. You take up space. You are made out of matter. Take a minute and everybody look around your house where you're sitting and come up with one thing that you can see that's taken up space that's made out of matter, and share it with your teacher. Okay, so you guys all shared a bunch of things that are made out of matter. Matter is anything that takes up space. So my scissors take up space, they're made out of matter. My pencil takes up space, it's made out of matter. My notebook takes up space, it's made out of matter. All of those things are made out of matter. On Earth, there are 3 types of matter. On Earth, there are 3 types, and they are solid, liquid, and gas. So gas, liquid, and solid are all types of matter. And matter, what does it do? It takes up space. Okay, so we've got solid, liquid, and gas. I'm going to share with you just some examples of solid, liquid, and gas. So solid, I've got a rock. This is a pretty cool rock because it has some fossils in it. Oh, that's pretty cool. But it's still a rock and it's still a solid. So this is a solid, okay? This is a bag of yellow water. I just put some food coloring in it so that you could see it better. But this is definitely a liquid. So I've got solid and liquid. And now the last one is, I'm not talking about the bag. I'm talking about the stuff inside the bag. And it's air. Now, most of the time when we talk about air, we say air, right? But in science, when we talk about matter, we're gonna call air gas. It is a gas, solid, liquid, and gas. Most gases you can't see, but they still take up space, right? It's filling up this bag. Okay, boys and girls, now is the time you've been waiting for. We're going to open the bag. So get your bag and try not to rip it too much, but just open up the bag. And we're just gonna dump everything on the table. Try not to have things roll away, okay? And let's take a look at some of the things that you have in your bag. So you probably have some cups like this. We don't need them right now, put them back in the bag. You have a bottle that's empty. No, it's not, it's full of gas. Whoops, put it back in the bag. You have a vial, put it in the bag. You have a glue stick, have that extras in case you need to glue things into your notebook, put it in a bag. You have a screen, something like this, put it back in the bag. You have a bunch of straws. I'm gonna ask you to put them back in the bag. And a pipe cleaner or a Kraft Chanel. I'm gonna ask you to put it back in the bag, okay? And the rest of the materials we're gonna take a look at, okay? So now, remember in your science notebook, it's the paper that we glued in says, what are solid objects made of? Now, boys and girls, the first one it says it's a wood cylinder. I ran out of wood cylinders. So some of you might have a block instead. So, but they're both made out of the same thing. What is the cylinder made out of? It's made out of wood. And I'm going to write the word wood in that second column. Boys and girls, this is not a spelling test. Just do your best on your spelling, okay? It's not a spelling test. Okay, the next one is this triangle. What is the triangle made out of? Plastic. It is made out of plastic. Okay. Then there's this tube. This tube. Does anybody know what this tube is made out of? Well, it's also made out of plastic. Okay. Now, most of you are going to have something like this cloth, but some of you might have something that's a little bit different. What do you think this is made out of? So this is cloth and it's made out of thread. And thread could be cotton or it could be a different type of material. So I'm gonna say, I think this might be cotton. So I'm gonna write cotton and I'm gonna write thread because it's really thread that's been woven into a piece of material, okay? The next thing is this craft stick. What do you think this is made out of? Wood. I'm gonna write down wood. Okay. Now the next one, and you guys might have some, you might have one that's black like mine. You might have one that's white. So this is a wire. Let's take a look at it closely. What do you think the wire is made out of? Well, I see a metal on the inside. The wire itself is made out of metal, but there's something on the outside of the wire. and it's like a plastic coating. So I'm gonna write plastic on the outside, okay? All right, and the last one is this screw. This screw. What do you think this is made out of? Oh, it's made out of metal. It's made out of metal. Okay, so we described what these solid objects are made out of. Okay, so now boys and girls, what I would like you to do is with your teacher, I want you to take these materials and I want you to describe them. And you don't have to write them in your notebook, but you could talk about like, how could I describe this craft stick? Right? I could talk about the color and the shape and how it feels. I want you to have at least 4 different words to describe each one of these objects that are in our bag, okay? So take a minute and just come up with 4 words that describe each of those objects. Okay, so boys and girls, I wrote some descriptions of the materials on the board in the science lab. And I said the cylinder was smooth, it was tan, it was hard, and it was not bendy. Now, I do have an extra cylinder, so in case you didn't have a cylinder, in case you had a block like mine, you just know what a cylinder looks like. Okay, I said that the red triangle was red, pointy, smooth, and it was bendy. Okay, well, bendable. I said that the tube was hollow, was clear, and we're going to come back to that word later, lightweight, meaning not too heavy, and really bendy. I said that the cloth was soft and blue, bendy, and a square. I said the stick was tan, long and thin, smooth, and not bendy. I said that the wire was black, smooth, pointy, and bendy. And I said the screw was silver, rough, hard, and not bendy. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but I kept talking about bendy and not bendy, right? This one was not bendy. This one was bendy. This one was bendy. Bendy, not bendy. Bendy, not bendy. So we're gonna, instead of using bendy or not bendy, we're gonna use another word. We're gonna use actually 2 words. We're gonna say, if something is bendy, we're gonna say it is flexible. Flexible. And if something is not bendy, we're gonna say it is rigid. Okay? So we've got rigid and flexible. Now, when we describe all of these things, we're talking about their characteristics. We're talking about how we can describe them to somebody else. This is a very important science word that we're going to use, and it is the word properties. Properties. When we talk about the properties, I don't mean, hey, this is my marker. You can't have it, it's my property. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's special characteristics. When we described the items in the bag, we were talking about the special characteristics. It's properties. Okay? Now, we're going to go back to our science notebook. And in our science notebook, we're going to write this question. How can solid objects be described? How can solid objects be described? And what I did, so remember I have this glued in. I went to the next page. I put a number 3 at the bottom. And I wrote the focus question. How can solid objects be described? And I'm going to kind of go back to what we talked about when we were describing things. So if I have this red triangle and I describe it, what am I doing? What am I talking about? We talked about a specific science word that talks about describing things. What is that? Right, I'm talking about its properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a red triangle in my notebook. I don't have a crayon right now, but I could color it. And I'm going to say, how can solid objects be described? We describe their, and this is the important science word, properties. And I could say, underneath it, I could say color, texture, size. All of those things are part of their properties. We describe their properties. Color, texture, size. I want to do just a quick little review about some of the important science vocabulary we use today. Everything around us that takes up space is made out of matter. Matter is a solid, liquid, or a gas. When we describe something, we're discussing its properties. Two words that we learned today that were important when we talked about properties was rigid. Rigid means that it cannot bend. Another word that was important today was flexible, and it means that it can bend, okay? So these are our important science vocabulary for today. Okay, and boys and girls, we're gonna finish up today by talking about what you need to read for this week. So you should have gotten your FOSS Science Resources textbook. This is your science textbook. And when you go inside, the first in the table of contents, it says solids and liquids is our first unit. There it is, solids and liquids. And you are going to read this one that says everything matters. Okay? Everything matters, including you, because you are made out of matter. All right, see you next week, Cougars.